The next case study that we are dealing with the managing big data second semester MTech course is credit risk management. So already you are aware that whenever a borrower or a bank gives you a loan, it is based on the CIBIL score of your score, whether it proves your credit worthiness to take a loan or not, right? So based on this, we have different scores which are with respect to this credit risk, right? So what are the challenges in successful credit risk management? Challenges are insufficient data for about a particular customer, no group-wise risk modeling framework for this, constant rework is required for analyzing the parameters of a particular customer, insufficient risk tools, cumbersome reporting. These are some of the challenges which are there in credit risk management. For banks, the data analytic tools and technologies have been particularly very important in combating risks and frauds. If not, we end up with credit risk as what we see today in Yes Bank or in any other bank firms which have come down to closure. Many bank requires tighter restrictions to grant loans or extend credits for them, right? To do this effectively, there should be an analytics tools that will give you a decision making ability to find out whether credit risk is there for an individual or credit risk is there for a particular company, or whether a credit can be extended for a particular firm or an individual. This can be typically based on annotating all the data and analyzing the data and finding out whether it can be given to a particular person or not. So, what are the sophisticated tools that we need? Sophisticated tools that a banker needs is to understand the complete behavior of the client. What are his past history of payments? How many loans has he taken? How has he repaid the loans? Has he defaulted any particular loan? So these are the parametric data that is very much required for assessing the current situations and extending whether a credit can be given to a particular individual or not. So you can also analyze reports like credit reports, spending habits, repayment rates, credit of repayment, big data software that can help with all these data. So particularly these resources are analyzed on Hadoop architecture, and you find out and predict the accurate forecast of future behaviors of that particular customer. So the analytics what is being built is customized based on the bank's requirement, based on the regulations that the bank has kept, and it also reduces the risk of financial vulnerability. So the next case study that we are looking at is the algorithmic trading case study. Algorithmic trading case study is also called as automated trading, black box trading, algo trading case studies. This is very much important for share markets basically. It is very much important to forecast certain shares and other things. So for this, it is important to find out an algorithm that will include timing, pricing, quantity orders, and initiating automatic computer programs to do this. So in the slide below, you can see a graph where there is an increase in the algorithmic trading from 2003 to 2008, and now in 2019 it has exponentially grown up by around 45%. Algorithm trading is nothing but using a computer program to do automated trading actions. For example, let's take an example of a share. You have purchased the share of a particular company at 300 rupees. Now, you want to keep that share until unless you make a profitable margin of that particular share. Now, let's say that you hold a threshold margin of 380 rupees for that particular share. Now, once when that particular share reaches 380, without your intervention, this computer software should automatically sell that share and bring back the amount to you. So this is called as automated trading actions. So once when a particular trade reaches a particular point, the system will automatically sell that particular share. It can also be possible that you can also buy a share on the other hand. Let's say when a particular company's share falls at around 150 rupees, which was priorly at 210 rupees. Now, this is called as a marginable profit gain or marginable profit situation where an individual goes to purchase that particular share, thinking that that the company share will again have a loop back into 300 or 400 rupees per particular share. Now, again, an algorithmic trading is used to do this, right? The soul of this algorithm trading is looking at a constraint engine rules where you are incorporating certain trading strategies, analyzing certain technical aspects, statistical methods, using some machine learning techniques to do some forecasting, and then you are setting certain constraints for your algorithmic trading, right? So this is a very challenging task because the data is to be collected for that particular company or that particular company share, its representation and how it has performed in last few uh, quarters. So the investment decision and the implementation is augmented at every stage with algorithmic support, and it is automatically completed with the algorithmic support. One of the main issues regarding the high frequency trading is difficult to find out how profitable it is. Now, for example, there are certain shares which quickly changes and drifts away, and certain shares which takes years together to come to that particular level. So, if an algorithmic trading has been incorporated for a high frequency trading, it results in a dramatic change in the microstructure of the market. Particularly, liquidity happens in this. That is, you start breaking away your shares, selling your shares, and liquidating it. So then next we have something called as in-memory analytics. This is another case study where you are trying to talk about the query of data that resides in the memory, that is particularly the random access memory. This is of a very key interest in some of the IRM softwares, information right management softwares, right, where the physical disks are stored, right, and you are trying to find out what is the data that is there in the memory which is useful for business analytics and certain analytic softwares, right? So the RAM basically has in-memory analytics wherein which you have BI and analytic applications which are supported on RAM, especially on a 32-bit OS with a 4 GB of addressable memory. The newer operating system which are on 64-bit can go up to 1 terabyte of addressing memory. So two important shift analysis that we do is the healthcare systems, right? Priority analysis to open analysis, aggregate data for graph. So a patient arrives to an hospital. Let's say that you are talking about a healthcare system. Patient arrives to an hospital. Tests show that the girl has a lepsis disease, which the immune system goes rogue and attacking the body's health tissues. Lupus can cause permanent kidney damage, right? But the doctor is worried about something else, so she would see the kid before and find out what are the clots which has happened. So this all aspects of it is recorded in the software, right? So how big data can help in healthcare? So you can see here, on one side you have records which are being maintained, lab tests, wearable devices which are being suggested. The other case you have health apps, genetic tests, census which are being made. These are all combinations of big data which we do. Come up with a question with a hypothesis, design an experiment to test it, form a conclusion out of it. So the medical research conditions, especially on any of the non-solvable diseases which are related to autoimmune disorders, right, are very very critical because every year the disease changes in that particular patient, and there is a change in the way in which the disease behaves in that particular person also. So this is very important to understand the medical records, other things, and try to analyze what can be the suitable medication that the patient can be on. So the other important challenge or the risk of blood clots is that usually a doctor would prefer an anticoagulant to make sure that the patient does not have any blood clots. Now the challenges are there is a rise in preterm births, right? There is an increased exposure to environmental toxins, right? The hypothesis or the study says these are one of the cases which may be predetermined cursors for why an autoimmune disorder can exist basically. A smarter healthcare economy is very important for everybody, which will basically look into all these genetical data processing, big data processing. A vast amount of data is analyzed just to find out how disease can be solved. There needs a big analytical software that can do these things. So, in conclusion, when you need cleverer methods to mine the data, methods that will be instrumental in detecting new information, detecting the correlation between people and its illness, repurposing, patient pre-profiling, right, and adverse action and monitoring detections. So one of the other case studies is the advertising and big data, the fundamental of marketing, which is extended for advertising a particular product. So this brings about an unprecedented tsunami of data for especially for marketing agencies, where ad agencies are creating certain ads, right? So few mutually exclusive audience segments were enough to optimize marketing campaigns. Genders, age, household income segmentations could break adult population in US into 84 segments and fairly manageable number of human process. Today, advertising agencies are very, very complex. They have online activity, social media activity. They create an explosion of opportunities and sea of oceans today. So look at the kind of data that comes in, right? The data can be from a mixture of combination of structured and unstructured data. It can be different form of data that needs to be analyzed by the big data platform, right? It can be a video data that can come in. It can be an audio data that can come in. It can be a mail. It can be a social media data which needs to be processed and put appropriately in the marketing domain for advertising. So the advertising industry is also evolved. There are mass amounts of data that it also handles in the digital advertising, right? Based on the emerging trends of the product and the customers, it also keeps doing the early advertisements, right? For example, if you look at the advertisement of a Swift car, right, which was very very popular in way back in 2006, right? People eagerly waited for the new version of the Swift car to come in, right? So this will create a natural prediction amongst the customer that there will be a high turnout of customers who will be purchasing that. So, what are the traditional methods in understanding it? The traditional method is understanding the company's ability to capture, store, and analyze the collected data of how market reacts, real-time data analysis, personalized and targeted ads, hyper-localized advertisement, mergers and acquisitions. So now when you talk about big data, you should also know that there are organizations which have different objectives, different improvement strategies, different margins. So we also have a terminology called as gig data. The gig data is an enhanced version of big data, which also include challenges about data acquisitions. Where does the data basically come from? The data comes from heterogeneous potential different sources of data. It also brings in serious challenges of integration work, serious challenges of heterogeneity in that particular data, serious challenges of different types of data that is being into it. How worth is the data? The data is very worth basically based on escalating cost, shrinking budgets, conflicting priorities. These are some of the things that it basically reduces. What are the big data technologies? The data agility emerges as a top focus here, right? Agility basically is suppliness, quickness, liveliness, alertness, and swiftness and responsiveness of the big data, right? You can see that there is a cluster or the universe of data that keeps growing in every second, and managing such a agility of data is truly very very challenging. Organizations have already moved from data lakes to processing data platforms. Data lakes were an object oriented storage repositories where people used to store raw data in a native format and then process it accordingly. But today's challenge is you need to do a real time data processing. That is a challenge today. So, because of that, you need to convert these data lakes into actual data processing systems where there are real time processing happening with it. Look at this case. right? This is a large storage of a data lake, right? The events are in real time and in a constant awareness and needs to take action, right? For example, this is what is the action that is expected, but if you are using a data lake, this is the action that you can see, right? So these are comparatively very very different. So self-service with big data goes with the mainstream. Self-service empowers the developer, data scientist, data analyst to conduct data exploration directly and find out the analytics from that. Hadoop vendor consolidation is another important case wherein which people are trying to move away from the traditional SQL from 1995. They have just come into the era from last 15 years into the era of NoSQL, where SQL is not so important concept, right? Where you are trying to analyze and break away from that traditional aspect of relational database management systems, right? And you are trying to analyze data in a different way. Enterprise architect separates the big hype from big data, right? In 2014, the big data and big hype were completely separated, right? But we have service level agreements which continue to talk about how enterprise architects have been treating Hadoop data centers and how Hadoop is trying to deliver business results out of it.